If I were to ask you what the #1 most American-made vehicle is, and what the world's best-selling vehicle of any type is, would you guess that it's a Tesla? What if I told you that that vehicle is also one of the safest vehicles in the world? Well, this is the current situation for the Tesla Model Y. I have been driving the Model Y since it first launched in 2020, and today I'm going to review my 2022 Model Y after 2 years of ownership. I'm approaching 20,000 miles on this car, and I'll detail everything about this car, along with getting into the good and the bad in my experience. So let's get into it. As a quick overview, the Tesla Model Y now starts at $44,990 prior to any incentives. An important note there is that all trims qualify for the $7,500 tax credit if you qualify, and it comes off at the point of sale. Tesla actually recently introduced this new model, and it's a long-range rear-wheel drive model. This gets an EPA estimated range of 320 miles, the top for this car, and 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds. For $3,000 more, you can upgrade to all-wheel drive, which adds a second motor, brings the 0 to 60 down to 4.8 seconds, and slightly drops the range to 308 miles. For performance-centered customers, there is the Performance model with a 0 to 60 of 3.5 seconds and 279-mile EPA range. Recently, Tesla changed the stock wheels and covers to a dark color and added a new Quicksilver paint option for certain trims. Other than that, this car is largely unchanged from the consumer perspective. If you look at a 2020 Model Y from the outside, it is nearly indistinguishable from a brand new one. On the inside, the main things you will notice are a slightly updated center console, cargo cover, more carpeted areas, and generally just a better build. I have the long-range all-wheel drive Model Y in white with the stock wheels and white interior. I'll go through all the main features of this car while reporting on my experience with each of them as we go. First though, it's good to note that the Model Y is a crossover SUV and that it is a top safety pick plus from IIHS. In Euro NCAP's testing, they gave the Model Y a near perfect safety rating. Ultimately, it is one of the safest cars you could be in during an accident, but prior to that accident, every Tesla Model Y comes standard with active safety features to prevent an accident from occurring. As Tesla puts it, the best accident is no accident. There are particular safety benefits that come from a vehicle being fully electric, and Tesla has designed the Model Y from the ground up with all of that in mind. Up front, the Model Y has a front trunk. This adds a decent amount of storage over a typical vehicle, but I do wish that this hood was power open like we're seeing from many other EVs today. While the Model Y may look somewhat small around the outside for an SUV, it does very comfortably fit 5 people and still have plenty of storage space. You can get a 7-seat option, but those rear seats are very small. The 2 front seats are very comfortable and spacious, and the rear seats can recline slightly while providing very nice headroom thanks to the all-glass roof. In my experience, this glass roof is really nice for letting in light, giving the car an open feel, adding headroom and more, but it can get warm. In the dead of summer in certain climates, even though this is tinted, you will notice the heat coming in. The front seats in the Model Y are fairly standard with powered controls. Then you will notice an incredibly simple interior from there. Essentially, you have a steering wheel, stalks, pedals, and then a 15-inch touchscreen. The best part of a Tesla is the fact that this touchscreen can be improved with time, and Tesla absolutely does this. I make reviews of this car fairly regularly, and if we look all the way back to 2020, the interface is almost unrecognizable from today. They actually recently did an update in this regard, and I really like everything that they brought to it. Throughout ownership, you will get various improvements and new features for free. Tesla's simple design and software-focused approach means they can continue updating the car, since it's just a screen handling most of it. This touchscreen has a really great refresh rate, and you will notice how reliable it is compared to most other vehicle software. While I definitely understand that people have reservations about certain controls moving to a screen, it is hard to criticize this screen as a whole since Tesla does such a good job with it. With that said, there are times with certain controls like climate, windshield wiper adjustments, and headlight adjustments where engaging with the screen is less than ideal. However, that's another thing that Tesla has recently changed, allowing you to control some of these things from a secondary menu through the scroll wheel on the steering wheel. The left stalk is your blinker stalk that also engages headlights and windshield wipers, and then the right stalk is your drive stalk, which controls gear selection as well as autopilot functionality. The doors have fairly standard window adjustments and a button to open the door electronically, and then there's a center console with decent storage along with a glove box. The glove box is open from the screen and is one of those things that I can understand people being critical of. I personally don't mind it. Up front, you will also see a wireless phone charger for 2 phones. There are USB-C ports in the center console, cup holders, basic dome lights, and more. These all pretty much work as expected, but the wireless charger can sometimes function as a phone heater, not really charging your phone too effectively. For rear passengers in the Model Y, there are 3 seats and climate control vents. You also have 2 USB-C ports for charging whatever you might need back there. Then the center seat has a fold-down armrest with cup holders. My favorite part of the Model Y comes with the hatchback trunk. The trunk, of course, is powered, and then you have a really solid amount of storage back there. Because this is electric, though, you have a sizable understorage compartment that I frequently use to put groceries in without them rolling around in the trunk, along with a smaller secondary understorage compartment where I tend to keep things I don't need too often. On top of that, there are 2 side cubbies and a cargo cover covering up whatever is in your trunk. If you need to fit longer cargo, the rear seats fold flat and really give you an incredible amount of space. I fold these all the time as a drummer and usually can fit my whole drum set with 2 of the 3 seats folded down. Now my Model Y is a 2022 model, made before Tesla moved to what they now call a comfort suspension. For that reason, I won't go too much into detail about ride quality, since it has changed, but I will say it could use improvement from 2022. I currently switch between the newly refreshed Model 3 and this 2022 Model Y, and the Model Y cabin noise is much more prominent and the ride quality is much bumpier. With the current 2024 Model Y, ride quality has improved quite a bit, but we are expecting an even larger improvement to come sometime early in 2025 when they do a refresh to put this in line with all of the features that the new Model 3 has. If you are somebody who is somewhat convinced on buying this car but just deciding when to buy, it's always tough to give true recommendations here because Tesla offers various incentives and discounts that could make it make sense for you at any time. But if you're worried about getting the latest features and you are patient, you may want to wait until that refresh comes. The refreshed Model 3 brings a lot of improvements that are expected to translate directly over to this new Model Y once it comes. The one design change that some people don't like, though, is the removal of the stalks behind the steering wheel. In practice, that puts blinker buttons on the steering wheel and then shifting on screen. I personally think most customers get used to that in time, but I'll save that for my Model 3 review. Build quality is often a concern with Tesla vehicles, and this comes from a history of delivering less than ideally built vehicles. At the price point that Tesla sells at, this isn't acceptable, and luckily this has gotten far better over the years. My Model Y has held up really well so far, but I did have one rattle that Tesla service fixed, and I have another new one that just popped up when I'm filming this. I can't quite figure out where this new one is coming from, and I will probably take it to Tesla service for them to fix. While I do love this vehicle and typically love driving Teslas, I have yet to take delivery of one and not have a rattle pop up at some point in time. So that is something to keep in mind. Hopefully you will never have a rattle, but it does seem to be something they can't quite nail down entirely. Another thing to keep in mind there is that since this vehicle is so quiet, it is much easier to hear rattles since there isn't engine noise blocking it out. So they are extra prevalent as a result of this car being fully electric. At first glance, that may seem like everything that this car has to offer, but part of Tesla's design philosophy is that it delivers a lot while keeping a very sleek, minimal look. All around the interior of the Model Y are speakers that deliver one of the best sound systems you can get in a vehicle. I'm a musician and a very picky music listener, and the only other cars I've heard sound better than the Model Y are ones that approach $100,000. You will definitely not be disappointed by the Model Y's sound system. What's great there too is all the ways that you can listen to music, including Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, which supports offline hi-fi downloads, and Bluetooth from your phone. There are also newer sources like podcasts, Audible, and more. Everything syncs really well, so I can always see my recently listened to music and pick up from where I left off. The same is the case with Audible. Tesla does not include Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, so you will be using these systems as a part of your car. Sometimes there are certain apps that I wish I could access through a CarPlay-like system, but I do think Tesla does a really good job with their system, and especially with their maps. Their maps needs to be good because it is the main piece of what is on screen at all times, and luckily it is and is always improving. There are rerouting options, options to include charging stops. It will automatically route you to Tesla supercharger stops as needed, so you never have to worry about running out of charge, and it handles multiple destinations and more. I also find that it is very nice to have everything that I'm doing in the car on the screen itself, as opposed to chaining it to my phone or needing to actually engage with my phone while driving. Some of the best features in a Tesla are things that are somewhat automatic as well. One of those is driver profiles. When you sync your car to your Tesla app, your driver profile pops up on screen and automatically saves all of your preferences. These preferences include all of your vehicle settings, your logins for streaming services, your seat adjustments, your side mirror adjustments, driving preferences, and even more. In practice, this means when somebody else gets into your car with their own key, it adjusts to their own driver profile with all of their preferences automatically. On top of that, if you change vehicles or rent a vehicle and are given app access, all of your settings automatically transfer. It's a really seamless, easy experience, and you see it in practice if you ever have to take your car into Tesla service and are given a loaner. Your experience will essentially be the same as your own vehicle. Things like this, along with the very solid Tesla app that has an incredible amount of features, really showcase Tesla's software lead. So yes, this car is very reliant on a 15-inch center touchscreen, but that screen is incredibly functional and connects with things like the app thanks to how well they make software. I have driven many great electric cars and have yet to see any that deliver software on this level or an app on this level. It's not free of bugs though. I did recently, while filming this video, find a bug where I tried to open a downloaded album in Tidal and it simply wouldn't load and I had to quit the app. Bugs like that can pop up, but in general, everything is very reliable. So what is it like to drive the Model Y? Well, overall, it's a fantastic driving experience. Instant torque makes the car incredibly zippy, and for me, I even have the acceleration boost, which boosts the all-wheel drive long range to a 4.2 second 0 to 60. It's not quite stomach dropping, but it's still incredibly fun and actually useful. Making assertive moves on the freeway or merging quickly are an absolute breeze and completely silent in the Model Y. Steering control is also very tight, and since this car is lower to the ground with a low center of gravity, it handles better than most gas vehicles its size. Everything about it is incredibly simple, especially because of regenerative braking, which enables one-pedal driving. The vast majority of the time, I do not even need to press the brake pedal, so my foot just uses one pedal and then I steer. The car is incredibly quiet, incredibly smooth, incredibly responsive, and you don't really have to work much to drive it. The funny thing about the Model Y is that while it is covered with glass, rear visibility while driving isn't actually that great. I'm very used to it, but when you look through the rearview mirror, it's just kind of a little sliver of a view to the back, as opposed to a truly useful view. That's part of the reason why I find myself bringing up the cameras a little more often. With that said, visibility out the front is great, and I think you'll find that the rear view is more than made up for with how this car drives. If you're an avid car person, you might find this car to be a bit boring as far as the interior design and how it drives, but for the vast majority of people, it is an incredible experience. Then every Tesla comes with Autopilot standard. This system is enabled by the cameras all around the exterior of the car. There are cameras pointing forward, 2 different cameras in 2 different locations on each side of the vehicle, and then a backup camera. In practice, these cameras serve a lot of function. When you shift into reverse, the rear camera, along with the 2 side views, comes up and gives you some of the best views you can get in a vehicle when reversing. And then you can bring these up at any time while driving. These cameras also function as the security system for this car, recording clips while driving, or when parked when people get too close to the vehicle, or you can even stream the feed directly to your phone through the Tesla app. These cameras also enable safety features, and then coupled with the FSD computer included in every Model Y, they deliver Autopilot. The one big feature I think is missing in a Tesla though is that even though it has all of these cameras, it still does not have an overhead 360 view of some sort. Recently, Tesla has introduced a new thing called Tesla Vision Park Assist, which actively renders everything around you to assist in parking. It's essentially their AI-enabled version of a 360 overhead view. This has gotten better and does help out when parking, especially in certain tight areas, but I still would love to see a traditional 360 overhead view that we see in many other vehicles. In any case, the Model Y comes with those safety features we talked about earlier, but also includes basic Autopilot, which does traffic-aware cruise control and auto steer. This is the system that Tesla is always improving, but for the vast majority of drivers, it actually does a really great job in its basic form. It is mostly intended for freeways, so you can get into the lane you plan to be in for some time, enter Autopilot, and the car drives for you. You of course need to be actively paying attention and ready to take over, but I find this really takes the stress out of drives, especially long ones. If you watch any of my previous reviews of a Model Y, you will see me almost actively recommending against you buying full self-driving. This is because this package has been very expensive for a long time, as expensive as $15,000, and it hasn't really delivered on Tesla's promises. The thing is, it has really taken a turn with version 12 of this software, which came out in the last few months. Full self-driving is now an $8,000 software upgrade, and the auto steer on city streets function has gotten good enough to the point where I would say it is worth at least testing it on your own. If you can test it before buying the car, that would be ideal, but if you want to wait, the good news is that it's entirely a software upgrade after the fact, and all Tesla vehicle purchases include a 30-day free trial of FSD. If you decide to upgrade, you upgrade through the app, and you can even subscribe instead of buying outright for $99 per month. The assumption is that these prices will increase in time as the system gets better, but the timeline is always unclear as to when it will deliver something like self-driving where you don't actually need to be paying attention. That is Tesla's goal here, and if you use this system, you will find that it can do a very good job very often. I have done hour-long drives from my house to where my destination is, and this system does the entire drive for me. With that said, it is by no means perfect. You still need to actively monitor it, and sometimes it will make mistakes or take things far too slow for my personal taste. But I would say that it's worth a try, especially with a 30-day free trial. Everyone will find their own balance of how much they actually want to use self-driving capability in a Model Y. For some, they will only want to use it on a freeway when they plan to stay in one lane, and Autopilot in its basic form will provide that stock with any Tesla Model Y. For others, they will want the car to drive as much as possible for them, and they'll fully utilize self-driving. And then for others, they won't want to use any of it and just want to drive themselves. And Auto Park is one of them that has finally been delivered. It's just fairly slow when it parks. Features like Smart Summon are actually not available on new cars yet, as they work on delivering a new version of that with a software update. Ultimately, the FSD package has gotten a lot better and a lot more exciting, but it's still promising a lot for the future. Charging is often a big question when it comes to electric cars, and it's an important one because charging is not equal on all cars. The great thing about the Model Y is that it is fully compatible with Tesla's vast and expansive supercharger network. This is the most reliable charging network out there, and they continue building new stations every day. I've done a road trip in the Model Y from Los Angeles to Seattle, Washington, from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, to Northern California, and back, and much more. Charging for those trips is automatically calculated on screen and is generally a breeze. There are some considerations to keep in mind though. If you are someone who cannot charge at home, supercharging will add time to your life. If you're an avid road tripper, supercharging will add time to your journeys. When I do a trip up to Northern California, I probably add about an hour or so of charging to my trip, as opposed to a 5-minute minimum gas stop. I personally don't mind this though because I time it when stopping for food and resting, and because the rest of the year I save so much time by charging at home. I get home from whatever I was doing, plug in, and my car automatically charges during off-peak hours, and I never have to go out to a gas station. I wake up in the morning and it's good to go for the day. If that would be your experience, I think you will find that a Model Y is a great option for you. If you can't charge at home though, and will always be supercharging, you may find that you don't save as much money as you thought you would by charging instead of filling up with gas, and you may find that it is adding too much time. As for maintenance, I have had my tires rotated, I have brought my car in for service to fix that rattle I talked about earlier, and that's it. Since electric cars have such fewer moving parts, repairs are far less common, so this is an added benefit here. No oil changes, and nothing that we're used to needing to get fixed on gas cars needs to be fixed here. You may find that tires go a little quicker with a Model Y though, because of the heavier vehicle and the fact that you're probably utilizing its acceleration. In general, this was a pretty positive review of the Model Y, and that's because this car delivers so much and does it so well. There is a reason that this is the world's best-selling car of any type, not just electric. It provides a lot, it is available at scale, it has a great range, and it has easy access to a vast charging network. The Model Y is not without its flaws, and there are certain things I would love to see Tesla change or fix in future versions of this car, mainly being the elimination of rattles and the introduction of something like an app store so that I truly do not miss CarPlay in any way whatsoever. But this is still one of my favorite vehicles on the market today. It's an incredibly practical vehicle that feels small when you drive it, but gives you ample storage space and flexibility, all while being very smooth, fun to drive, and incredibly safe. With all of that said, this car should be getting better sometime in 2025, and if you want to see my full review of the new Model 3 that car would be based on, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.